Okay. I'm Tom Queen, and I'm an art and antiques dealer who lives here in the Short North Arts District of Columbus, Ohio. I've been in the antiques business for about 30 years, and I've watched it change dramatically, especially in the last few. In the old days, you'd go out, spend all day in your car, look for things in antique shops and junk shops and auctions, and then come home and get it all cleaned up and then take it to an antique show that you were set up in the next weekend and sell it. Well, thanks to the internet and just the change in social patterns, the business has changed a lot. And so this is my live and work space here in Columbus. So some of the objects in here are antiques, some of them are artworks by some of the artists that I've worked with over many years. One of my specialty items is the Appalachian musical instruments, dulcimers, banjos, fiddles, and what's great about these is they represent the culture of people living in poverty in Appalachia in some cases who didn't have the money to buy commercially made sophisticated instruments, so they'd make something like this fiddle that's made out of a half-gallon gasoline can. So another one of my specialties is the material culture of the Shakers, the American Shakers, who were a religious communal society who lived and thrived mostly in the 19th century in America. However, there are still a few remaining in one community in Maine. And this carrier here is representative of the types of objects that they made for their own use. What's quirky about the Shakers is they were very progressive people. They were an inspiration for much important design of the last 100 years. A lot of Danish modern furniture is based on Shaker design, and to this day, a lot of artists and all harken back to the aesthetic of the Shakers. But what's odd about them is they practice celibacy. So they might have made some wonderful things, but you didn't get any nookie. So going over here, what I like to do is I like to combine antique objects with vintage objects. So almost all the pottery that's in this bookshelf is actually West German pottery from the post-war period up into the early 1980s. There was this great period of wonderful artistic pottery being made at some of the small pottery concerns in Germany. Some of those businesses are no longer here. The glass tower is an example of some of the artwork that was made by the late Corbett Reynolds, who was one of my friends and mentors here in Columbus, Ohio. I represent his archives among other aspects of my relationship with his work. And the really interesting thing about the antiques business is, in the old days, people were collecting things. What we find now is people are decorating their homes with objects. So in the old days of Shaker collectors who wanted to have a dozen of the carriers like I just talked about, now they might want to have one sitting on a bookshelf, maybe next to a piece of West German pottery. So I've had to learn how to adapt to meet with the times. And the big thing I'm finding now is, as the collecting generation, the great American collecting generation, has been dying off, or they are downsizing as they get older, I'm finding that the majority of my work now is helping some of these folks try to find new homes for their objects. So I've been handling a lot more estates in the last few years, and amongst many of them was the estate of a gentleman here in town who worked in Hollywood for many years as a tech and lighting person in the television business, and including shows like The Price is Right. And as a gift from his sister, after his passing, I was given this program from autographed by Carol Channing from the show she did called Lorelei. And for someone like me who used to live in Los Angeles and is well aware of the legendary story of Carol Channing, who was overheard in a restroom after doing her business to stand up and say, "Corn, now when did I have corn?" This program hit way home with me.